A real bestseller hits the market, another book by Tvrtko, another breathtaking journey to the darkest places. That's why he calls them stories from hell. It's a reporter's quest to get into places no one else ever could. Usually it's him alone, armed with a handheld camera only. From the forest reaches of Russia to the middle of Africa and the coasts of Australia. And its success well earned. His first 3 titles sold an average of 100,000 copies each in a small market of a population of 10 million people. Then his books made it to the front line of the best-selling lists in the region. People willingly stand in line for hours just to get an autograph for their book each time a new volume is published. And the key to success is Tvrtko's personal perspective, shocking and moving with real human touch. The top stories without cheap sensationalism.
I don't care about borders and I don't care about stupid rules.
North Korea, a country behind walls, closely guarded. And a face that it wants to show the world, a false picture of happiness and cheerful parades. Tvrtko got in undercover to show the real picture. Disguised as a humanitarian activist, he filmed the real Fenyan. Leading the communist secret service by their nose and putting his life at risk, he used his handicap to document Kim Jong-il's dictatorship. He got into a sealed district called Communist Paradise and into an underground museum where party members gathered an unbelievable 700,000 presents for their dead leader, Kim Il-sung. Tvrtko also filmed in a general hospital, only to witness shocking poverty and the death of a helpless baby no nurse or doctor cared to save.
There are things that you just have to show the world, and I will.
Reunited at last.
Even the darkest story from hell can have a happy ending. It's a special edge to Tvrtko's story.
It was the last picture about him.
Reunions after seemingly endless years of waiting, hope and despair. Like this 20-year-old pop star from Eastern Europe, Evelyn, who grew up believing her African father died in the civil war in Sierra Leone. Tvrtko found the man alive in a remote African village and filmed as Evelyn hugged her father for the first time in her life.
How are you?
Then the story of the Hungarian nurse who saved the life of an Albanian child during the polio epidemic in the 50s and then adopted him. Later, communism tore them apart and they gave up hope of ever meeting again. Tvrtko organized their reunion in Tirana, Albania, the poorest European capital city, 44 years later. And there's Alicia, a sister from present-day Ukraine, who never gave up hope to find her brother lost in 1947. Tvrtko found the old gentleman in Sydney, Australia, and flew Alicia there to fulfill her lifelong dream. And the most breathtaking of his true stories, one to hit the headlines worldwide, was to find the last POW from World War II in a remote asylum in former Soviet Tatarstan.
Can you imagine what it feels to find someone who was lost for half a century? I found this someone, and I brought him home. He was my friend.
A broken old gentleman forced to live decades of his life as a patient in a hospital for the mentally ill. A soldier whom everybody thought dead. Tvrtko tracked him down and brought him home, back to long-awaited freedom, with half of the world press taping the event. 2,000 despairing families, some even from the US, claimed Andras Toma as their long-lost father, brother or nephew. Then a DNA test helped locate the real relatives. Tvrtko was made part of the rehabilitation process, making friends along the way with Mr. Toma, and witnessing the deeply moving moment when he first recited the long-forgotten words of the Hungarian national.
Hazádnak rendületlenül.
Mi van, hogy van tovább?
Légy szívó magyar. Bőrsöd magyar sírozás. Mely aparat akar.
Mi ez?
A nagyvilágon egy hívjuk. Mrs. Samadra High.
And now the real hellish stories, dirty secrets of dark regimes brought to light. Tvrtko uncovers the unthinkable. The children of AIDS from Romania, 8,000 young ones terminally ill for having been vaccinated with used needles. The mental hospital in rural Ukraine where patients are tied to trees and beaten up regularly. The last leper colony in Europe, hidden away in the uninhabited estuary of the Danube. And the largest leper colony in the world, sealed in a heavily guarded military zone in Ethiopia. This time, Tvrtko and his cameraman disguised themselves as medical students to meet the unspeakable horror of people without faces. Hopeless, incurable lepers whose disease claimed their eyes, nostrils, lips, and even their fingers. But it's never just a horror story. It's always the human perspective of someone who has to live that hell. In this case, a dedicated specialist of infectious diseases, Dr. Axman, who gave her life to help prevent the spread of epidemics even in the poorest and remotest places on Earth.
I'm not looking for suffering, I'm looking for heroes. There are tremendous people out there, and it's my mission to find them.
A next set of stories all about the largest disasters of our age. Whether it's a devastating earthquake in Colombia or a heavy flood in the Carpathian Mountains, Tvrtko is always there to cover the event with those who speed there to help. It took him years, thousands of letters and large sums of money in the right pockets, but eventually he even got into the sealed district of the Chernobyl nuclear plant. He was there in the mission control room with the radiation counter in hand, ticking away ever so alarmingly. He wandered the empty streets of Pripyat, once a thriving Soviet city of 50,000 people, now the largest dead town on Earth. He uncovered the last secrets of the Soviet propaganda machinery. How people in the region were led to believe after the catastrophe that nothing serious had happened and it's safe to come and stay.
19-21, 33.
I had nightmares about Chernobyl. This is one of the most dangerous places on this planet. You don't see a thing, and it kills you.
It's also a mission for Tvrtko to guide his viewers and readers to the most peculiar of sceneries. This is Bozard, the sunken village in Transylvania. The Ceausescu regime decided to terminate it. A whole reservoir was deliberately spilled to erase it from the face of the earth. And then Elizabeth, an American citizen who lost her only child at birth and who pursued her lifelong dream to have a baby to the depth of the Sahara Desert. She adopted Maimouna in a small village in war-torn Western Sahara. And the most grotesque of all, the almost funny dictatorship in former Soviet Turkmenistan. Tvrtko got in as a diplomat from the smallest African republic of the Gambia. The ever-so-beloved leader, Turkmenbashi, serves as the logo for the national TV. His grandiose golden statue sings hymns of his greatness, and even the month of January is renamed Turkmenbashi after him. Tvrtko presented his stories in primetime news programs throughout the world, namely in Europe, Africa and Australia. Tvrtko is 34 years old and is happily married with 2 children. He now lives in Hungary as one of the most respected reporters of the country and one of the better-known celebrities of the Eastern European region. Now it's his aim to show his stories to the American public and make it a success story overseas as well.